Hi, this is Mac and Oz, and nobody ever listens to a word I say. So thanks for being here. The latest with Trump is that he is threatening to bomb the civilian electricity infrastructure of Iran. The aspect of that I am thinking about is the fact that it's obviously a war crime. If you look at the coverage in the news media, what you'll find is that despite the fact that the world has been talking about Putin committing the war crime of civilian infrastructure targeting and destruction now for 4 years in Ukraine, despite the fact that virtually every serious news organisation on the planet has published stories around that characterisation of those attacks as war crimes with regard to Putin and Ukraine, despite the fact that the news media have been covering Iran's attacks on the freshwater infrastructure, the desalination plants of its neighbour countries in the Gulf. Nobody is talking about the fact that the President of the United States is trying to blackmail a country he has already criminally attacked with threats of the open and obviously deliberate commission of multiple war crimes as part of that blackmail. The implications of this are part of what is widely regarded as being wrong with the Western mainstream news media. The failure to characterise Trump's threats as being the threats, of a madman, of a brazen criminal madman, isn't surprising. That's the first thing we have to say about every failure of institutions in the West to address the situation that we find ourselves in. It isn't surprising, and what that means is that the effect of it is muted. There is the primary problem that is allowing Trump and Netanyahu to do uncalculated damage to the world's economy. The failure of the news media to simply be consistent in its description of what it is when one country bombs the civilian infrastructure of another country means that the fundamental problem of mass compliance with this insanity, people going along with Trump, whatever he does, just to get along, in America generally and in the governments of every other significant Western country. And I don't know whether or not you include Japan in that, but we've just seen the Japanese Prime Minister sit there and be humiliated and speak to Trump like he was a 5-year-old. This is a geopolitical problem beyond terrible, It is the simple apparent absence of international law. International law is made up, like all law. International law is of no effect unless someone at least tries to enforce it. The beginning of any sort of enforcement of any kind of law, it comes with reporting of the offence. And here we see at the one time the reporting of the offence and the manipulation of that reporting to immediately shut down any suggestion that it is an offence which should have consequences for the person committing that offence. The failure of the mainstream media to make these points, and it's not a universal failure. I'm not going to say that I have reviewed every major Western news source. But if you start with the New York Times and work down, the New York Times hasn't done a story on, or using the term war crime, since the 14th of March, when an article was published reporting on the Iranian attacks on desalination plants in the countries bordering the Gulf. So the way to address this, obviously, is simply by being aware of it and of pointing out to as many people as you can that the current debate in the Western world is how best to support a political leader who is an aggressive autocrat at home and a flagrant war criminal on the international stage. The question about how to deal with him is, how do we placate him? How far do we go in actively supporting him? There is virtually no suggestion of anything more than no response at all. So there may be a positive response, there may be no response at all, but no one is going to aggressively pursue the operation of international law against Trump. So that's the world we're living in. That's the kind of observation that I'm starting this channel to make and to publish. Can't say that I think that my perspective is unique, but certainly every little bit helps, and this sort of fundamental correction of what is going on in the mainstream political and economic commentariat hopefully helps a little bit. That's all for today. Welcome to the channel. I know the lighting scheme is crap. I'll address that, but no one's going to be seeing this video anyway. Bye.